A roundup of last week's news stories exposes US perceptions of a threatening security situation in Ethiopia's capital city. But is the US seeing something that Addis Ababa residents are not? Let's look at the prelude of events. The drama started with CNN's headline on November 4th that fear was mounting as TPLF rebels had moved to the outskirts of Addis Ababa. The double irony to this story, at the time not only had TPLF fighters been reportedly cornered by ENDF around Woldia area some 350 kilometers away from the capital city, but the photo that CNN selected to depict this headline expressing concern towards the rebels attacking Addis Ababa was the same photo that had been used by CNN to cover a story in the Tigray region back in May. On November 5th, based on the so-called advance of the rebels, the United States State Department urged all US citizens to leave Ethiopia and issued a level 4 do not travel advisory on Tuesday warning Americans against traveling to Ethiopia. We then saw Reuters report on the statement issued by the TPLF warning that they would hunt down any foreign technical experts and what they referred to as mercenaries. This statement appeared to be corroborated with a more general statement posted on TPLF's Facebook page, which broadened the threat to anyone supporting or cooperating with the Ethiopian government. Essentially, anyone who wasn't standing with TPLF. These statements were then quickly followed by what, to an average bystander, could have been interpreted as an orchestrated cascade of calls for external military intervention. The first article to roll out was Bloomberg's November 11th publication of a commentary piece by James Stavridis. James Stavridis, a retired admiral and former Supreme Allied Commander from 2009 to 2013. Stavridis' lack of knowledge regarding Africa and Ethiopia notwithstanding, he contended in his article that sending peacekeepers to Ethiopia would be the only way to solve the conflict. It did not go unnoticed that Stavridis, a former dean of the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, had a connection with Alex de Waal, an executive director of World Peace Foundation, and someone who has repeatedly engaged in misreporting and publishing TPLF propaganda throughout the conflict period. The next day, on November 12th, BBC then published its interview with Major General William Zina at Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, better known as the US military's Combined Joint Task Force in the Horn of Africa. In the interview, he expressed concern over the implications for the Ethiopian conflict in terms of a possible withdrawal from Somalia, bringing instability to the GERD. The statement made by a military leader concerning Ethiopia's capacity to credibly negotiate seemed out of bounds for a senior military leader to give authoritative commentary on. 4 days later, United Kingdom media reported that more than 100 soldiers were on standby to move into Ethiopia to evacuate British nationals. A BBC article published on November 17th with the commentary predominantly from Alex de Waal argued that TPLF had outflanked the Ethiopian army, although there were some opposing voices which emerged in this article. These voices were muted under a dominant de Waal narrative. Although there were some opposing voices which emerged in this article, these voices were muted under a dominant de Waal narrative. The credibility of this article diminished only 24 hours later when EBC, Thana, and EPA all reported that the Federal Army defeated TPLF Army and Bati Kasigata and the highest losses suffered by the TPLF fighters to date. In a press conference briefing on Wednesday, November 18th, AP journalist Matt Lee challenges State Department spokesperson Ned Price, who stumbled over his comments, which Lee argued inferred that the US government felt that Ethiopia was like Afghanistan, and the government was preparing for a similar extraction as was seen in Afghanistan. We learned that American troops being deployed to Israel to be on standby for an imminent evacuation of American citizens from Ethiopia. It also seems that US government officials are urging nations who have not yet prepared for extraction and evacuated non-essential diplomatic staff to do so. The key question this leaves is, what intelligence does the United States government possess that the rest of the world does not have? Here's the current state of Addis Ababa. Different analysts and commentators continue to remind us of the realities of insurgency and warfare and the circulation of disinformation and the psyops in order to create fear, unnecessary disturbances, and panic. With the Federal Army gaining in the northern region and the ongoing defense of the major strategic infrastructure, the TPLF forces had made successive attempts to control information warfare and appears to be escalating to new levels, including a push for the evacuation of the international diplomatic community, which may justify the TPLF claiming heightened instability, warranting external military action. It may be the TPLF's last hope for a seat at the negotiating table. While misinformation and psychops trauma continues to play out, the government continues to call on all Ethiopian citizens to remain vigilant and to play a part in countering the spread of false information. But there is certainly no evidence of an imminent takeover of the capital city, to the contrary to what is being reported by Western media.